Welcome to a Friday afternoon edition of Life is More Than Living a Podcast. Um, I am self-sponsored. My book, Split Souls and Transition, which is a fairly dark yet powerful, I believe, poetry collection. It's available in audiobook format as well as paperback. Also, you can discover more about who I am, Alfred Howell, More Than a Poet, by scanning the QR code up top and get tuned into this podcast, which is part of my portfolio. Life is about more than living a podcast by subscribing to it on Spotify and YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts at. Now let's bring on today's guest, Jenny Chan. Today's topic on it is going to be what's going to be in the sense of it's going to dive deeply into some of the untold stories, the cost of human cost of war as it relates to World War II. And let's welcome Jenny, and she will give you her own bio besides what is in the text. Welcome, Jenny, to another episode. I believe it's episode 255 or 257 of Life is About More Than Living a Podcast. Um,
Thank you for having me.
you're
Yeah.
welcome. You're welcome. You gave me a reason to pause on a Friday evening and do what I really love to do, which is talk a lot or ask questions
Yeah.
and things of that sort. I chose the thing as I did because I wanted something that would reach out and perhaps trigger people's minds and thought process because of the ongoing, what I call, and I'll say it boldly, illegal war in Iran, the unjust treatment of the Palestinians as my people have been unjustly treated for 100 years in this country. To tap into, I chose that because this generation needs a better understanding. Future generations need a better understanding of the human cost of war and conflict, whether it's a physical war or just one in other forms upon certain races, ethnicities, or people just in general. There's a price to be paid. So that's why I chose that theme. However, there are so many more topics that we can dive into. So I'm gonna let you go with your bio. You highlight whatever you like to highlight as far as talking points.
Yeah. I'm Jenny Chan, and I'm the co-founder of Pacific Atrocities Education, where research we research a ton into World War II, and what happened in the Pacific. You'll think that like it's easy to get some of the records about what had happened since it's like 80 years ago, but a lot of the items that we were still researching it still require like Freedom of Information Act to FOIA requests, to in order to find out what had happened during World War II in Asia.
Mm. And I know one of the videos that had planned to tie in, but didn't get the opportunity to tie in, that I watched, it was the treatment of American POWs on one particular ship. And really, I don't know, like a lot of persons probably don't know some of the other things outside of the Japanese internment that has been publicly talked about over and over again. Sort of like with Black history, people know about the civil rights movement and they know about snippets of it. But there's a lot of untold stories behind all of this. And in this particular case, World War II, there's a lot of people still alive that lived through that period and stories. And hopefully, as you gather more artifacts and more information, at some point, I would love to have an encounter and see some of this stuff in person. But it's your
Yeah.
opportunity to take that deep dive into um, however you want to take a deep dive into it.
Yeah, so like you said, a lot of people, I'm pretty sure you watched the video on the homepage of our website about
Hmm.
Hellship. And
Hmm.
what's interesting is that we never talk about, those prisoners of war went from Baton Death March to onto hell ships and whatnot. And they were then interned in these camps that the Imperial Japanese were running. And but before they were interned in the camp, they had to go on these house ships where they could be sunk by ally forces because these ships were unmarked. And before you go into like, oh, we're trying to bash Japanese people, I'm not trying to bash Japanese people. I'm trying to
Hmm.
about what happened in World War II. And like in this particular house ship on our website, Arusamaru, it ended up that like thousands of people were sunk and only like eight survivors, because while they were sunk by allied forces, the Japanese perpetrators who were in the same ship as they were, who were the prison guards supposedly, made sure that there was no escapee and that no one survived, because they didn't want to have some, prisoner of war or some soldiers running around wild and that could attack them. And so then, and of that, there was only a handful of passenger after like 1,000 people. I mean, there were a whole ship of 1,000 people, and even though that they were trying to get justice after the war, they simply couldn't get justice. Um, and it's not because and a part of it had to do with there were only a handful of them in DC trying to get justice for what had happened to them after the war, but also US needed Japan to be their ally to fight against communist China. um,
Hmm.
so there was political point involved in getting their post-war justice per se, and so that's what happened. After the house ship and all the POWs and whatnot.
Mm. So I know you mentioned in the context about how your family history led to this work. So elaborate a
Yeah.
little bit on that.
Yeah, so, my work is kind of personal because I don't think that history was something that's, like, in books. It can also can be connected to, like, family memory, and silence, and also fear that these stories would disappear. My grandma survived World War II in Hong Kong, and she never really talked about it until when I was watching Japanese anime. She was upset and um about me watching Japanese anime, and I thought grandma was just senile. um, but it happened that she was just she because she had gone through it. She was not happy when Japanese anime was on TV. Um,
Wow.
and so I think it brings back flashback to her memory, and but it's sad that I never really talked to her about it before she died. About her time in Hong Kong and the occupation of Hong Kong. And after she passed away, we found like a box of items that she had owned during the war. And yeah,
Wow.
and
Things.
there were like military yens, there were like rice rationing coupons, and afterward I felt like after she passed away, I was trying to look for like a nonprofit that does this kind of research. There's all kinds of Holocaust museums and whatnot, Japanese internment
Mhm.
camp museums and whatnot. And I thought like maybe I can reach out to like a museum and whatnot, and they would want to have my grandma's stuff or maybe want to do more research about this time period. But there's no really, I couldn't find anything related to this time period, like not a nonprofit, and like not there were like individual authors who were writing about this
Mhm.
topic, but definitely not like an institution that wanted to talk about this and like have primary sources and want to research more into this. And so I was naive, and I started this organization, Pacific Atrocities Education, so then we can dive into deeper about what had happened in this period in Asia.
Mm. So definitely a personal connection. Definitely a personal connection. Um, so with regards to your organization, is it more beyond the website, which I explored? How else? What forms do we operate in? Exactly where is it based?
Oh yes, we're based in San Francisco, but um and we go to the National Archives a lot, because
Mhm.
a lot of information were obtained by America, because Japan was occupied by the United States.
Right.
But what's also interesting is that I found out that, like, in 1986, a lot of these documents actually went back to Japan, because Americans were like, "Oh, this is hard to translate," and so then a lot of war crimes material actually went back to Japan.
Wow.
Can you imagine if, like, you're trying to find out Nazi war crimes, and then the war crime material went back to Germany, and then now you can't find
Wow.
it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, but also, I'm gonna be what they may call devil advocate, not
Yeah.
knowing what's happening behind the scenes. It could be another case like now of trying to rewrite history
Yes.
because it will make
I
Americans uncomfortable.
I
After
think
all,
there's a lot of rewriting history out there. There's also a lot of people who are trying to revise textbooks. There was a
yeah,
whole
all of
movement
that
about
ugly,
that.
what I call ugliness, the Fahrenheit 451 scenario is living out in our time.
Yeah, and
Basically,
it's like,
book burning in a different form.
yeah, and it's just like, and on top of that, they gaslight you about your experience,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, we all know these war crimes happened during World War II. Well,
Mhm,
not all of us know, but then, like, those who lived through it knew. And
mhm,
whenever they were speaking up about what had happened to them up during the war, they would be consider like, oh, they're lying or whatnot.
mhm,
They're called liars. For example, we there was a comfort woman. Comfort women were like sex slaves during World War II,
mhm,
and she was talking about her experience and whatnot during World War II. And a lot of, like, denialists would call her like, "Oh no, you were like a high paid wartime prostitute."
yeah.
That was like a thing that people were calling her, when she was
Mhm,
speaking about her wartime experience. Whenever we post about comfort women on our Instagram and whatnot, it was also people also deemed that, like, we were posting about, like, things that are untrue. And that's why my work is very important for me to find primary sources, because then it proves that, like, I didn't make it up. It came
mhm,
from the National Archives. It
right.
came from, the Japanese memoir of what they did during the war. And so it's very important for me to do that, especially if it's like government documents that admit that they were doing cover-ups. For
Mhm,
example, for like Unit 731, we were able to find a lot of documents that the United States basically said that, okay, yeah, we understand that these scientists killed a bunch of people by doing human experimentation and vivisection,
mm,
but this is of science value. And
mhm,
so then it shows that, the Americans crossed the line there. And
mhm,
also, we need to learn from history.
mhm. That's one of the reasons I also chose the quote that I did in researching a quote for this show, which is history is a vast early warning system. Norman Cousins. And revisionist history fails to alert people to what is possible. Rewriting history as well fails to alert the people to what is possible. I mean,
Yeah.
history is actually our early warning system to what is possible. And I would have thought about taking the show an entirely different, what some would consider more radical direction today. But it's
But is
not.
it more radical though? Because if you're just telling the truth, then is it radical?
But let me say what I mean by radical. It's radical to those who don't want to face the truth. Those who want to face the truth. And this is another reason for me doing this is because of my genealogy, my history, my culture. Uh, and I have met some younger people that only have a limited knowledge of the racial issues in this country, African American people of color, Black people. And I was like, and one of my number one points to share with those who will listen is that I will be 64 years old in September. I recall vividly going to the colored people's bathroom because in North Carolina was one of the last holdouts to integration. So I recall what that was like. It wasn't told to me I lived it. My maternal grandmother was born in slavery.
Wow.
And I know this because of the limited stories she would tell, like your grandmother. There wasn't much ever said, but she let us know, like I can say with us, and let me know in the home. I don't know what time the period was. I was a kid, but there was a point where a photo came out of her father and her mother, and it was like he was on a plantation. They were on a plantation. Her
Wow.
mother was what we consider a house slave because she was somebody other than a black person's child because she was lily white in the black and white photo.
Yeah.
So, so, but those stories were limited, as you say in your case. Uh, but I had enough to share with these younger people that this is living history. So our voices need to matter so it don't become revisionist history.
Yes.
Uh,
And they will
and
probably people probably gaslight you and tell you that never happened.
yeah, I've seen some posts where it never happened. Some people said it never happened. They've been challenged on it. Or is that's some have believed it was a long time ago and it wasn't.
Mm.
It wasn't. I mean, I cannot remember. Someone may come on my Facebook feed from my small town at some point and let me know whether we were the first integrated kindergarten class or the first integrated Head Start class in my hometown. But again, that wasn't
Mm.
long ago, and I bring that in to say that uh, oh yeah, this young man today told me, said, I don't see rate, I don't see color, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how you not see color?
Mm.
Because there's certain laws that certain things was changed in our state, North Carolina yesterday, giving the police and the state highway patrol permission to work with ICE now in North Carolina. They didn't have enough votes to override the government. They had enough votes to override our governor's veto. He vetoed that law, and they overrode the veto. So now, and that's when he decided to see color because he's like, I'm a Haitian Puerto Rican. I'm like, now he sees color. This law just changed in our state yesterday. Hmm. Yeah, it
Yeah.
went. And then he was like, what time is your podcast? And I said, like 5 o'clock. And you can
Yeah.
watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate because I think that's why history is important, and that's why
Yeah, it
having a
is.
conversation is important because then,
Hmm.
I mean, I would have never known, right, that about your family history,
Yeah.
and I think that's, I mean, not losing our history, it is so important because we have already lost so much. If you think about it, right? We
Hmm.
don't even know how the pyramids were built. It's so
No.
yeah, it's so ridiculous to me whenever we hear things like, "Oh, it was built by aliens." Like, probably not, right?
Well,
And
I'm gonna say it like this since you want to go there. And everybody, I didn't say built by aliens, but I'm a firm, and this was where I'm glad I'm going through my spiritual deconstruction as a Christian and looking at Bible differently and life differently over the last several years. So that's a whole nother show where other people irritate people a lot. But anyway, where I refuse to believe that we're the only intelligent life in this whole
yeah.
process of life. Universe, other universes. All I do know that, since you mentioned the pyramids, is that there was somebody with advanced science and advanced technology that created them, and they're still here. And we may never know who it was, but they're living proof there were intelligent beings that could do that architecture.
Yeah.
Like somebody might look back on us and say, "Oh wow, um, uh, your phone is now in the palm of your hand," but they actually had a phone back in the day on a device. And may look back at our generation and say, "Oh, look, I'm talking through a ring on my finger, like Green Lantern or something."
But I think that, we a lot of history could disappear just because simply, like, for example, when I go to the archives, right, a
Hmm.
lot of the documents from 80 years ago are already fading. They're very fragile.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's not like you have to actively hide your war crimes. Just
Hmm.
the documents would just fade away if we don't preserve it. And that's why
Right.
our organization exists to
I'm gonna,
really
I'm gonna ask
document.
you one. I'm gonna ask you one favor. Could you slide
Yeah.
over just a little bit? We get half of your face. There you
Yeah.
go. And I
Sorry about that.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and you get that perfect profile that People need to see all of you as you speak.
Yeah, and so I think that's why it's really important to preserve and also research more into what had
Hmm.
happened in World War II.
Yeah. Um, and I, like I said, I know very little. I know what's been handed to me about World War II. Like I said, the internment camps, the bombing, only country ever to use a nuclear bomb on the nation. Though it don't want nobody else to have a bomb, but anyway, that's another story. There's so many ways I could go off topic a lot with this conversation, but I'm not. But I'm gonna go back to the documents fading. I actually have a document, excuse me, a personal document that I wish I had the original copy from of. I wish I had understood to make copies over the years because the original document, the copy I have is faded. And it's a redacted government document, personal government document. And my memory has those of that original document. The areas that are redacted are costing me money right now because I was
Mm.
involved in the government in a certain kind of way that I'm going to go into this show. And but when I requested a copy of the document, they sent me the redacted one, and that
Wow.
was faded. Yeah,
And
faded
also,
out some.
I
So it's
have come
good
to.
to
Mhm.
go ahead. I'm listening. We
And
listening.
also, I've come to the conclusion that I think government can redact the document anytime they want to redact it.
Yeah, for this particular one, I would need to get a senator or someone to authorize it, and it's not that serious right now. Some things that I've come to understand are better left unknown, even with myself. Uh, those who have caught this podcast before, and when it's more personal in the sense of my story, your story type thing, know that I'm a trauma survivor from childhood. I have a jaded memory of certain things and certain events, and that place when this document came into play, it affected my adult memories. The point
Mhm.
is, I wanted a copy. I knew where to go get a copy, and they sent me a redacted copy. And they're like, "You need to go to XYZ to get it unredacted." I'm like, "Oh, I
Wow.
ain't gonna worry about it. I ain't gonna worry about it." But because for me, that's part of my history, and I mean, it's hurting me. It's not, and so I'm good. But going back to this part, that goes back to what something in your bio about preserving archival records. And as you said, some of these things are fading. Uh, how's your what is your organization doing to make sure that some of these documents are preserved?
Yeah, we that's a great question. We have a digital archive, and we also have a YouTube channel that we describe the archives that we're preserving along the way.
Okay, could you type it in the comment box
Yeah,
so that
Pacific
people have
Front
it?
Untold. Yes, let me join the chat.
Yeah,
Um,
just typing.
mm,
Somebody's actually came online here, so I don't know who or where, but it's cool. Because normally Friday, people in Greensboro area are getting out and about or getting off work about this time. But
let
yeah, just
me
put it up there for
connect.
people, and then I'll take it and add it to the. There you go. Yeah.
Okay,
Someone's. I'll take it and add it to the thing. Yeah. Uh, yeah. We got people on now. Uh, so
awesome.
all that being said, now we can have a place for people to go.
Yeah,
Besides just the website, 'cause I have the website tied in
and
with
also
this.
our website, Pacific Atrocities.
Yeah, I've got that tied in with the. I had that tied in with the original text, but as well as the contact information. I think I moved it down. Yeah, I've got to put it back into the script again. But yeah, we're
Yeah.
good. But as far as it's there. But as far as all these things goes, uh, not only preserving the record, but also funding of your organization. I saw on the website how people can make donations to XYZ, uh, and I'm going to add it to the final text that goes out to Spotify as well. Uh, so when it comes to your organization, do you have a preferred way of receiving funding? I didn't click that link, so I'm just asking off the cuff what they might can expect when they click the link.
Oh, we're actually we are mostly funded by individual donations.
Okay. And when they click
And
the link on your website, they can donate that way.
yes, and people feel actually very strongly about it because a lot of institutions don't talk about um things that had happened in World
Hmm.
War II in Asia. And so I think it's very important to talk about, and a lot of individuals feel very strongly about this topic, and so they make donation when they go on a website.
Hmm. Okay. I feel again. I said I was watching that video. I felt strongly, very strongly about um, making hoping that you didn't counsel number one that the story would get out there. And I was like, if something happens, we can't connect. Then at the very
Yeah.
least, I'm going to take the video and I'm going to share the video on across my platforms. Because one story can change a lot of lives.
Yes, definitely.
Um, when it comes to this, and I think when we wrap it up, the bullet point here says the connection between remembrance and justice while learning difficult history can help build empathy. And empathy, I think, is a quality that's missing a lot, especially in our current society, with our current political climate. So, uh, what that point there, it said there's a connection, but why is it learning? Why learning history can be? Why can't learning help? Why can learning history help to create that empathetic path or
Yeah,
bond?
I mean, it's just like how we were sharing about our family history. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it builds empathy. It builds people need to know where they came from, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's why it's very important. I mean, what we do is so slow. Sometimes I run out of patience. It's not like something fast. It's not like, like a cultural war talk show where I can go produce some really quick things. It's
Right.
like record scanning is a slow, archival work is a very slow and exhausting work. Sometimes I would scan for like 6 hours, 7 hours at the
Wow.
Hoover
Wow.
Institute, and I get like thousands of pages. And like after thousands of pages, I'm like, wow, some of this stuff is in Japanese, and I still need to go home and translating. And also, like, our work really require a lot of patience, and sometimes it raises more questions than it answers. And yeah, so and it's exhausting, and I can't really explain to someone, right, like, oh, what is happening, and what happened during the war and whatnot. And but but without archives, right, the denial of history also becomes easier. And so
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's why record really matter, and because
Hmm.
it preserved evidence of what had
Hmm.
happened. And yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's where I think it will chat the work that you do and are doing challenges some people in the
Yeah.
context of they would prefer revisionistic history instead of facing the hard truth. We can create the change that's needed.
Or
That
they
is
prefer
something.
if it never happened at all,
Or never
like,
happened at all.
right,
Or
like
yeah,
slavery never happened, and we don't have
yeah.
to talk about it anymore.
No, it didn't. Or yeah, we dropped some atomic bombs on two cities in Japan, but that was a long time ago.
But it's
Uh,
not a long time
and it's
ago.
not a long
And
time ago. Yeah,
right.
or it's like it's also a different comparison of the bombing of the attack, I would say, of the World Trade Center. Everybody got their own perspective on that. Uh, but what about have a World Trade Center? Uh, it can be used as a talking point for good history and learning, or someone for those who appear behind the scenes of reading or watching things and learning. You saw that there was a darker element to that that led
Yeah.
up to all of that that makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah. Or it can
Yeah,
yeah. And like, for
yeah.
example, Unit 731, the scientist who was inspired to start Unit 731 for human experimentation and
Hmm.
germ warfare, he actually was inspired because he read some work about, like, oh, we need to limit germ warfare. And so then he was inspired because he thought, wow, if people are scared about germ warfare, that means that there must be potential in it.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Anything of that type. Uh, so that's what came around the other side of things. Uh, one of my early guests. I find myself mentioning him often, especially in shows with guests like you today. Beam, he was one of the twin towers when it fell and survived it.
Yeah.
And he went off to serve in the military, came back, founded a nonprofit to to help veterans that had sustained certain types of injuries or disabilities or things of that sort, and to keep the stories going. That it was more than just the towers. It's more than just the war that was associated with towers. There was a human cost involved in all of that. So now I'm helping others through my nonprofit organization um,
Yeah.
to keep the stories going, to keep the remembrance going, to let you know that this is the human cost that was involved in that from a soldier's perspective. Um,
Yeah.
so that's how that for me, this all ties back into which I think is the core of our has been the core of our conversation. Part of one of the core items of our conversation is that history must be told from the standpoint of the victor and the victim and the voices that would not have a voice unless people such as yourself did the research, did the deep dive, came forward, and kept the stories going for other generations to come.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, that leaves me kind of in a solemn space to say, how would you like to close out before I take you off camera? And then,
Please go on our website pacificatrocities.org and check out our work. And also we have Tuesday live at 9 a.m. every Tuesday, where we uncover each archival document that we have been uncovering at the Hoover Institute as well as the National Archives. So please tune in, and yeah.
okay, well, Jenny, I thank you for coming on a Friday afternoon. And I usually have to this question in the beginning. What time zone are you in officially? I was guessing all day.
Pacific Standard Time.
Okay,
It's
what
okay. I
is it? Three
really need it.
o'clock?
Yes, so
Good.
for me it's close to 3 o'clock, and actually I just took a day off of scanning art scanning today because my head was hurting from because when you're reading like some memoir by some war criminal, it's always justifying their work and what they did during the war and why they needed to have so much killing getting done. And I was reading these really dark documents yesterday, so today I just decided to take a break in the afternoon, and it was great talking to you.
Thank you. Um, mm, I, I'm going to invite you back. Um, I can't remember what time period. Something major happened in October. Well, let's see if we can get you back on in October, if
Yeah,
you're
great.
willing to come back on
Yeah, we'd
and
love to have it.
just pick up kind of where we left off. I hit some more. We hit some more of the bullet points today, and I would like you to perhaps I'm gonna highlight it in bold text now uh, on on the thing because if I don't, I will forget it later to do so. That we can take a deeper dive into that unit 731. I'm gonna do some more research on that
All right.
myself to have a better understanding of what you're talking about, so we can drive that home to some people because some of the things I still believe are happening today, they're just not talked about. One
Yeah.
day, somebody like you and I will possibly be sitting down discussing those things as history. Hopefully not. Hopefully there can be a change and humankind can learn something and not repeat some of this stuff. But that's it, Jenny. I thank you so much for your final thoughts and that you shared a moment ago. And take your camera and close this show out.
Thank you so much.
But do not go nowhere. Literally, please. Give my screen chance to shrink down. And okay. Thank you, everyone, for catching another episode of Life is About More Than Living, a podcast. I will definitely have Jenny Chan back on again. And history, yeah. Let's do things not to repeat it. The worst parts of history. Let's create new memories and better conditions for people if we have time to do so, as we have time to do so. Um, Catch the replay of this audio format next Tuesday on Spotify. Life is about more than living. Have a good weekend, y'all.